Good evening. Thank you for joining with me in this learning endeavor. It is greatly appreciated. Birshus, with the permission of friends old and new. Tonight we begin the second Mishnah of the second parak. Let's get right into it. Rabbi Gamliel ben Noishal Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Omer. Rabbi Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi Rebbe, the redactor of the Mishnayos, said, Yofa Talmud Torah Derech Eretz. Beautiful it is, the learning of Torah, when it is combined with Derech Eretz. That the toil of both of them allows one to forget sin. And any Torah that is not accompanied with work, in the end it will be nullified and it will cause sin. And anybody who works with the community, they should toil with the Sibor only for the sake of heaven. Because the merits of their forefathers and their righteousness stands with them and sustains them forever. And I, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I will grant you their merits as if you performed those mitzvahs. Rabbi Gamliel was the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. And right before Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi passed on into the Olam HaEmes, the Gemara tells us the following tale. It's a Gemara in Ksubis Tav Kuf Gimel Amud Beis. Afal pi sheshimon b'ni chacham, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi says, Afal pi sheshimon b'ni chacham, even though my son Shimon is wise, or he's the wisest of my sons. Gamliel b'ni Nasi. Gamliel, my son, will become the Nasi of Klal Yisrael, the leader of Klal Yisrael. Shimon was wise. He was perspicacious. He knew Kol HaTorah Kula. So why still appoint Gamliel as the Nasi? It would seem to be more appropriate to appoint Shimon over Gamliel. So notice what Rabbi Gamliel, the author of this Mishnah, begins the Mishnah with. Yafet Talmud Torah im Derech Eretz. Beautiful it is, Talmud Torah, the learning of Torah, when it is combined with Derech Eretz. He leads off with a statement about Derech Eretz. So to be a leader of Klal Yisrael, it's not enough to merely possess technical knowledge, nor is it sufficient to know the parameters of the Arba Chelkei Shulchan Aruch, the 4 chapters, the 4 books, the categories of the Shulchan Aruch, of the Code of Jewish Law. One must know and possess and exhibit the fundamentals of the unwritten and so-called 5th chapter of the Shulchan Aruch. The 5th chelik. The chelik of Derech Eretz. Because Derech Eretz kadma l'Torah. Now Rashi, if one learns the corpus of Ola Chamisha Chumshei Torah with Rashi, is Marv Sedra well? By the way, that's one of those mitzvahs that are not really so scrupulously observed like we had mentioned last night. If one goes through Rashi, you will notice that he cites 5 examples throughout all of Chamisha Chumshei Torah, or instances of Derech Eretz. I'd like to suggest that the reason why only 5 instances are mentioned by Rashi is perhaps to show and demonstrate that Derech Eretz and Torah itself, the Chamisha Chumshei Torah, and the 5 of Derech Eretz combined to make Atzeres Adibros, or each one, so to speak, one is the mitzvahs bein Adam lechavero, and one are the mitzvahs bein Adam lemokom. Either way, they should be or can be considered on par with each other. Maizedi's chavrusa, Rabbi Yaakov Neinman, Maizedi, when he got married and he moved from Brisk to Baranovich, he had the fortunate circumstance and the bracha to learn with him Rav Chanan Wasserman every single day. So Rav Chanan Wasserman suggests on this particular Mishnah that Derech Eretz is really defined as morality or moral and ethical behavior. Therefore, moral behavior is primary to Torah, or Torah without without moral character simply cannot withhold a person from committing an iniquity. As the Mishnah here says, "Shigia shneim mishkachas avim," that the toil of both of them is necessary in order for a person to distance oneself in their memory from the commission of sin. The Gemara in Kedushin tells us, for those who are paying attention, Daf Memam and Beis, Kol sheyeshno b'mikro b'mishnah, anybody who has within them the learning of Chamisha Chumshei Torah and Shisha Sidrei Mishnah, and what else the Gemara tells us, Ube Derech Eretz, and Derech Eretz, Lo b'mehedahu chotei, he will not come swiftly to sin. Which adds support, sheyigia shneim mishkachas avim, that Talmud Torah, when it is combined with Derech Eretz, when Mikra, Mishnah, and Derech Eretz combined, sin should be pushed to the side and become far away from a person's thoughts, because your entire day is caught up in both work, in acting in a beautiful manner to all that you encounter, and in learning Torah. And if that's what your day is filled with, who's got time to have bad thoughts? Chazal teach us, if you don't have one, im ein derech eretz, ein Torah. Im ein Torah, ein derech eretz. How is it possible that you could have Torah without derech eretz? So Chazal teach us, oilu talmidei chachamim. Woe it is to those talmidei chachamim. Woe it is to those people who know Torah. She'ein ba'am yirah shamayim, that have no fear of God. Can you imagine that there is such a thing? That there's a person who is a Talmid Chacham, he's steeped in all of the knowledge of Torah and mitzvahs, and yet he has no fear of heaven. In other words, he's a balaverenik. Let's interpret Derech Eretz differently. Derech Eretz means work, trade, profession, and labor. The Mishnah is actually coming to encourage all to combine a means of living and earning with the pursuit of Torah. By the same token, yes, the Mishnah is telling us that we should pursue a profession, but don't ever throw Torah to the side. No person should spend their entire time exclusively in his or her profession neglecting Torah study. Remember what the Mishnah says, Yofa Talmud Torah im Derech Eretz. And by the way, this Mishnah transposes the order. Everybody thinks it's Derech Eretz Kodma la Torah. The Derech Eretz comes before the Torah. Here, notice what Rabbi Gamliel says. Yofa Talmud Torah im Derech Eretz. Talmud Torah comes first, then Derech Eretz. Ethical and moral behavior should not stop at the threshold and the doorstep of the Beis Medrash. Rabbi Gamliel of fame in Gemara and Brachas, when he was the Nasi of Klal Yisrael, before they deposed him and appointed Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, the same one of the fame of Harei Anik ben Shivim Sharav Elazar Chisin, you couldn't come into the Beis Medrash because they had special guards there. And the special guards, as you entered the threshold of the Beis Medrash, they would peer into your soul and they would ask, Tolcho Kaparo? Are your insides like your outsides? Meaning, simply because you manifest with a mask and you proud the shtick of frumkeit and knowledge, are you the same person on the inside as well? And if these special guards peered into your soul and they divined that your insides were not like your outsides, that your mask and that your face was merely a mask, presenting a good appearance to those on the outside, but corrupt on the inside, you had no place in the Beis Medrash. Our Mishnah continues, Rabbi Gamliel continues. And any Torah that is not accompanied with work, suifa betela v'gorera safam. In the end, that Torah will become nullified and it will cause sin. Now, the Hebrew word for malacha means not just labor, but it also means fabrication or creation. Making something. Make something of your Torah, the Mishnah is coming to teach us. Apply your Torah to life's various activities. Torah, it could be transformative. It could be evolving and even life-changing. It's not something that is stagnant, Torah. Halacha, my father, Rabbi Yaakov Simcha Cohen, used to explain to everybody, halacha means to walk. It means that you cannot walk backwards into the future. You need to move constantly, and even halacha itself evolves on a certain level. You can't forget the past. You cannot shirk the past, but you cannot be mired only in the past. Halacha itself means to move and not to be mired and stagnant and stuck in the quicksand of the past. If life and Torah for you and me is inertia, indolence, and immobilization, then soifa b'tela, then in the end it'll become nullified, and it'll all be for nothing. Rabbi Gamliel continues in our Mishnah. And anybody who works and toils on behalf of the community, that he should do so for the sake of heaven, for the most altruistic purposes. Mesi'atem, because the merits of their forefathers assists them, and their righteousness, the righteousness of those forefathers, sustains them forever and ever. So my father, Rabbi Yaakov Simcha Cohen Zatzal, asks the following question, and will give the following answer. Under what circumstances does chus office, the merit of our fathers, enhance our actions? So my father brings an example. It's a very famous example. It's an example from Sefer Bereshis. Rivka and Yitzchak have no child. Rivka is barren. Yitzchak goes to one corner and prays, and Rivka goes to the other corner of the home and they pray, and they both pray for the same thing, that a child should be born to them. The Torah tells us, Vayeta Yitzchak la'Hashem l'noichach ishto. And Yitzchak entreated God opposite his wife. Rashi explains that Yitzchak's prayers were answered, not necessarily those of Rivka. Rather, Yitzchak's prayers were either answered wholly and Rivka's were rejected, which would seem extremely harsh, or Yitzchak's prayers took precedence over those of Rivka, and therefore there was greater efficacy to Yitzchak's tefillas. And Rashi explains, why would Yitzchak's prayers be accepted over Rivka's? They're both tzaddikim gemurim. They're both completely righteous individuals. They're both totally on par with each other. So Rashi explains, She'ein doimet tfilas tzaddik ben Rasha letfilas tzaddik ben tzaddik. There is no comparison to the tefillas, to the prayers, to the davening of a tzaddik, a righteous individual who's the child of a wicked person, to the tefillos, the prayers and the entreaties of a person who's righteous, who's born of a righteous individual. And therefore, since Yitzchak was a tzaddik ben tzaddik, he was a righteous, born of righteous, and Rivka was only righteous but born of wicked, then Yitzchak's prayers took precedence. So my father says, he asks the following question. It's not the Gemara in Barchos Daf Lamed Dalet Amud Beis, for those of you that want the page number. Doesn't the Gemara tells us b'makom shebalei tshuva oimdim, in the place that balei tshuva, that a person who has come back to the Lord, that has asserted himself and is now a completely righteous individual, despite whatever their background is. B'makom shebalei tshuva oimdim, in a place where a Baal Tshuva stands. Ein tzadikim gemurim yecholim lamod, that a completely 100% righteous individual has no place. He cannot stand in the same place. Meaning, the Baal Tshuva is better than the Tzaddik Gomer. Thus, Rivka, who's a Tzaddik ben Rasha, whose whole life was steeped in rishus by the house of Lavan, her prayers should have taken precedence based upon this statement in Brachos. B'mokum shebalei tshuva oimdim ein tzadikim gecholim ein tzadikim gemurim yecholim lamod. So therefore, shouldn't Rivka's tefillas been answered before Yitzchak's? Her status was superior. No. Based on Rashi, and based upon this Mishnah, when it comes to davening, when it comes to prayer, lineage does matter. It matters a lot. When a person prays, he's praying together with all of his ancestors. When you and I daven, you're davening with your mothers and your fathers and your bubbies and your zaydis. The combined and collective tefillos serves to enhance the efforts and guarantees the success of those who serve the community. Kol mi she'oskim b'tzarchei tzibur HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishalem secharom. Rabbi say, when you daven, tonight, tomorrow, and every day in the future, I ask of you this, and I ask myself of this as well. Conjure up in your mind's eye, Lu Yitzuya. Imagine this. Imagine that when you're davening, your mother and your father and your bubby and your zaydi and all of the saintly individuals and all of the tzaddikim that have preceded you and made you possible and brought you to your place wherever you are in life, imagine them. Imagine them when you are davening. And maybe and just hopefully you will be granted success in all of your tefillas. And may it be the will of God. Good night.